How's it guys, Munash here, and today we have rank 3 Warlock soloing every boss in Act 6 Chapter 4 without any boosts or suicides or signature abilities or synergies or any of those S terms, but rather a pretty bare bones rank 3 Warlock, which is pretty much what you can expect after taking him to rank 3. So first up we have Iceman, which is going to be the quickest and easiest fight out of them all, because this is a fight where Warlock actually is one of the best counters for, in my opinion. So he does have stun immunity, which is probably the most annoying note in this fight, although Warlock does really well with the backdraft intercepts just because of his animations, making it quite easy to reliably backdraft with them. Then there's protection, which doesn't really make a difference for my Warlock since he won't be hitting hard enough to even trigger it, so you can pretty much ignore it. The heal block debuff also doesn't make a difference to Warlock. And then there's Matador, which can be quite advantageous because you can get to those special attacks a little bit faster. Since you don't have to pull up the power yourself, you basically let the opponent do that for you, so they gain power a little bit faster by getting hit than you would by hitting them. So ideally you just want to bait special 1 because you gain a bar of power every time they throw a special attack. You can just bait special 2 if you find that easier. I mean, it's not really a big deal, it just means you're going to be gaining power a little bit less frequently. But also he is stun immune, so baiting special 1 just means less reliance on intercepting or holding block to get those openings. But like I said earlier, Warlock is pretty good at backdrafting. You basically just go back in right after you dash back, to get that easy opening or that easy intercept. And yeah, then you also want to ideally throw your special 2 when he has an infection on him, just so that you do armor break him before the special 2 actually connects, just to do a bit more damage. Otherwise you only armor break at the end of the special 2. So yeah, this is a pretty good matchup for Warlock, fairly straightforward fight. And I remember the first time I did this fight, the day it came out, I used my 5-star Warlock and it was pretty much the same, it just took a little bit longer. So I just need to bait one more special 1. Dex that, drop a combo, and he goes down. Okay, now we're gonna move on to Thor Ragnarok, who Warlock also works fine for, not the best, but you can still get it done pretty comfortably just because he has some good power control. So he has Prove Yourself, which means you can't do any damage whatsoever before you have at least 15 hits on your combo meter. Then he also has Aspect of Death, which means that if you get hit by the special attack, any special attack, you instantly die. Which doesn't sound so bad because his specials aren't the most difficult to avoid, but then they also are unblockable. And he has Power Efficiency, which means his specials will cost 50% less power. So this fight is all about managing his power, because he also has his own power gain when he hits 20 charges, but yeah, otherwise it's not too difficult. You can use virtually any champ, as long as you can play around those special attacks, but ideally you do want someone who can sort of power control to a certain extent, just to make it easier, but otherwise it's not too specific. So first thing I need to do is get 15 hits on the combo, so I can start doing damage, and at that stage he's at 2 bars of power, so I want to bait the special 2, and with power efficiency he only loses 1 bar of power. So I have him at 19 charges, so I want to bait a special 1 now. Resets back to 0 and he's got 2 bars of power, so I'm waiting to bait the special 2 now. And he took his sweet time throwing that special attack, just going back and forth, testing my patience. Eventually he does throw it. And I start dropping combos again. Then I want to bait another special 2 before I drop my own. Get him infected first. Push him to 2 bars of power once again to bait another special 2. I'm actually just trying to get my alignment right so I can drop the special 2 and make sure that it does cancel the power gain. I wasn't actually sure how many hits it did before this, I didn't actually count, but yeah. Then I start weaving in some heavies because Warlock's heavy does some pretty good damage, comparatively speaking. Does a lot more damage than any of his other hits, I think. So when it crits, it does about 15k against Thor, which is nothing special really, nothing crazy, but there's also the bleed on top of that, which can do about 5000 damage with max deep wounds. But what I like about Warlock's heavy is that it's one hit, so it's pretty good for stuff like Do Not Go Gentle or maximizing your damage per hit in Abyss, because he's not a champ who's got some very good damage output, but having that one hit heavy will allow him to basically be able to solo fights in Abyss, because that's something that usually only champs with really high damage output can do. And of course it has some good reach on it. You can even chain it to the special 2 when the opponent is in the corner and they don't have a bar of power, of course. So overall a pretty good heavy attack. Even though it's basically just Wolverine's special 1, we kind of just stole it. But anyway, back to Thor. Just need to keep baiting those special attacks. Just punishing with the heavy for fun. Also, it's one hit. It doesn't give him that much power, so it's not bad for managing his power. And I want to bait a special 2 before I throw my own special 2 once again, just before he gets the power gain. Then it gets disabled, and then we just carry on, bait specials, punish, and yeah, pretty straightforward. So you notice that most of these fights have the Spider-Ham loading screen, because I actually did most of them last month. Well, now it's 2 months ago, I guess. It was in December. Just after I took him to rank 3, I started doing these fights, just going through Act 6 Chapter 4. Because I was planning on making this video a lot sooner, but plans changed. I ended up having less time to work on it, and priorities sort of shifted to more relevant content at the time. So I only came back to it yesterday, but I just had one fight to do, which was the Grandmaster, which by the way ended up being a pretty clutch solo, which you'll see a bit later. Well, unless you decide to fast forward. I'll probably include some timestamps for this video, because it is going to be a bit of a long one. It's basically 6 little videos in one. And the fights kind of got longer as I progressed, so Iceman was by far the shortest one. It took about 2 minutes. Then there's Thor Ragnarok, and the next boss, which is Darkhawk, took about 5 minutes each. Although with the Darkhawk boss I did have suicides on, because that was the first piece of gameplay I used the rank 3 Warlock for, which was just after the 7.1 legend run, which is how I got the tier 5 class for Warlock. So I guess I kind of lied about not using suicides with Warlock. I did use them against the Darkhawk boss, because that was just the initial gameplay. I had them on anyway. Oh, and I did have the robot uprising synergy with Ultron, so I did start the fight with the Fury buff, because Warlock is immune to the suicides, but that Fury doesn't even last that long. It didn't make that much of a difference, so yeah, it's just the suicides that helped with the damage. But I mean, he can still work perfectly fine for that fight without the suicides. It just takes longer, obviously. So I thought I should just address that before someone in the comments is like, clickbait! You use suicides against Darkhawk! This is not an accurate representation anymore! You're a fraud! Unsubscribe! You know, just this crazy stuff. But yeah, whatever. Now back to Thor. Okay, so at this stage I was just sort of having fun throwing heavy attacks all the time. I'm just basically punishing whatever special attack he throws with the heavy. And yeah, it's pretty nice because it does give you some pushback, so it keeps you from getting cornered pretty easily. Which also just gives you plenty of space to bait the heavy attack, and you can see he is pretty eager to throw them at this stage. Okay, and he's about to go down, and look how much health I lost in this fight, 3%. And it's not even like I was intercepting a lot in this fight, it's just baiting special attacks a lot and not parrying much. Long, so I don't recommend that. So now we're just gonna move over to the Darkhawk boss, who has Force of Will, Hurt Locker, Power Efficiency, and Line Art. So there won't be any ability accuracy reduction in this fight, first of all. Although, I'm not sure if Warlock can actually bypass Force of Will, because I have seen him do it before. But this was a time when he was still bugged. It was actually about a year ago, when he was still lowering all forms of ability accuracy, not just offensive. And I remember during that time he was borderline broken. There was very little that he couldn't do, especially with the cable synergy, because then you get a 50% chance to gain 2 infections instead of 1. So he could just shut down so many nodes and abilities, quite similar to Quake or Archangel. But then he also had all this other great utility on top of that. But anyway, Darkhawk fight. So the fight actually did crash, so I had to reload the game. And I'm just gonna go in and do usual combos, maybe bait a special 1 or a special 2. Doesn't really matter at this stage. If I'm trying to avoid block damage, then I'll bait the special 2. But if I want to make the fight easier, then special 1 is actually better. The only thing is it does do a lot of block damage, based on his attack, of course. But yeah, once he gets to almost 3 bars of power, then I do need to bait a special 2. And that'll put him into stealth mode, so now I can miss with my basic hits. As you can see right here, I wanted to throw a special 2, but I missed with that last hit, so I did throw a special 1 because I didn't have enough power. And he blocked that, of course, so yeah, that was a bit of a waste. But still, I'm not too worried about it. At least now it's no longer in stealth mode. So I can go back in with full combos, but now I have to bait another special 2 before he gets 3 bars of power. And I can't use the special 1 to power drain because of Hurt Locker. I had to cycle between my special attacks. Unless I can, you know, heavy or knock him down very quickly. But yeah, I just want to bait another special 2. And he is not throwing it as I want him to. Now I'm in a corner, which isn't fun against Darkhawk, especially when you can miss. But fortunately now I do have 2 bars of power. So I can throw that special 2. Which does apply some armor breaks. And that puts him into shield mode, so he will trigger that regen. Which is fun because I do have him heal blocked, so he will just get power drained a little bit. And now he's no longer in shield mode, so I can't do my usual crit damage. And not worry about getting auto blocked. So now I can also just drop a special 1 with 2 infections, which does apply a decent power drain. And the last thing about shield mode compared to stealth mode is that the shield mode doesn't last as long as the stealth mode. So yeah, this is another fight that Warlock isn't really perfect for. He isn't an ideal counter or anything like that. But he can work for it. And he can get it done pretty comfortably. So now he's almost at 3 bars of power again, so I do need to bait a special 2. And what I didn't even realize is I probably could have actually pushed him to 3 bars of power and then threw my special 2, because that would knock him down, put him into shield mode, which will cause him to regen, and when he regens with an infection, he will just get power drained. So I actually could have played this one a little bit better. But I'm just going to bait another special 2 and then drop my own. Because special attacks can't miss against Darkhawk. So yeah, that is pretty safe. And now I'm going to wait for shield mode to go down, so I am going to back up a bit. Then do the usual Dex parry or Dex then parry to prevent him from throwing special attacks. Just gotta hold block before you Dex. Then I can drop a full combo. Then special 1 to power drain. So now he isn't infected, so I want to make sure that I can get him up to once again 20 viruses before he throws special 2. It shouldn't be too difficult with Dex and parry. Okay, then he does throw the special 2 back into stealth mode. So I just gotta be a bit more careful. Parry 1 or 2 hits, so I can't get punished after missing. Although I can do 3 hits without getting punished if I'm quick enough. And then just bolt to the special 2 once again. And the special 2 does take him out. So yeah, this one took about 4 minutes. Not my fastest kill against this champ. I've done it with several different champs, but Warlock was a very comfortable one. You know, he managed the fight pretty well. Didn't have to worry too much about the regen, and he power controlled him to a certain extent fairly decently, I would say. I lost about 50% health in this fight, but half of that was just recoil damage. Okay, now we're gonna move on to Captain Marvel. Now this was quite an interesting fight with Warlock just because of her animations and the node combinations. And this is one of those fights that I got better at as it progressed. And eventually I just started enjoying the fight as well, so it wasn't as bad as I expected. But at the end of the day, you don't want to use Warlock for this fight because it's Captain Marvel. You want to use a Mystic champ because pretty much any Mystic will just melt her. It's actually quite ridiculous how quickly she goes down against, yeah, literally any Mystic, any good Mystic at least. But of course, for the purpose of this video and demonstration, I just need to use Warlock for all the bosses. So the most annoying node here is close encounters, because basically you kind of need to stay near her for most of the fight, otherwise you will lose health. Because you will lose 3% health when you are far away from her, but you only regenerate 1% when you're nearby. Then there's Crumbling Armor and Enhanced Armor Break, which doesn't make that much of a difference as long as you don't get hit, of course. Heavy hitter just means I can't reliably punish a heavy attack, and then there's energy sensitive, which means she's gonna gain a lot more charges whenever she blocks, gets hit, or throws a special one. So this is a fight where ideally I do want to play very aggressively just so I can stay very near her for most of the fight. So I did utilize Warlock's special one in this fight. So I can push it to 3 bars of power and then just drain it. So this was another fight where I wasn't too worried about which special attack I bait. Special 1 is generally easier to dex. But I don't find the special 2 to be that difficult, just gotta dex it slightly early. Yeah, and I like that it's just one special attack, so it's less baiting for 2 bars of power. And it's a little bit faster than the special one in terms of animation time. Okay, here I dexed it slightly early, so I got help from the Nick Fury synergy. Best synergy in the game in my opinion, or at least my favorite synergy. I don't want to say it's the best, you know, because there's just so many synergies. But I feel like that one is probably universally one of the best because it helps almost any champ, you know. There's only very few champs it doesn't really benefit, such as Quake and Ghost, you know, 2 of the best champs in the game. So it is pretty handy. Okay, drop a special 2 which knocks her down with 13 charges, puts her in binary, and she's going to be going in and out of binary a lot in this fight just due to how rapidly she builds up those charges. Then at this stage I realized that I can dex the first part of her special attack, the projectile, then dash in with the medium attack, and then after it whiffs I can actually dash back or dex and then punish the special one. And this is really good just for staying near her during the special 1 animation, because the first hit does push you back quite a bit. Then you end up taking a fair bit of that close encounters degen while you're waiting for her to leap at you. Then I get clipped by the last hit of the special 1 because I was sort of just passively moving towards her, so I wanted to dash back just for some safe space, but she timed the special 1 sort of with my dash back, and yeah. Sounds like a decent excuse for getting hit like that, but really I just mistimed the dash back. If I was a bit more precise, I wouldn't have gotten hit, but fortunately I had the armor buff up, so her special attack couldn't actually crit, so it didn't do that much damage. Push her to almost 3 bars of power, and then just drain her with the special 1. Okay, now bait a special 1. So the fight has gone well so far, not much left, even though it's not the best matchup, although it's also not the worst matchup, so yeah, it's not bad for Warlock. Now she only has 1 bar of power, no indestructible, so I can drop a special 2. And at this stage I started having a little bit more fun, and actually dropping the heavy attack to punish the special 1. And this can be quite effective when she's low on power and in the corner, because then you can just spam or chain those heavy attacks back to back. Just do a bit more damage very quickly. Okay, so I bait a special 1 with just over 1 bar of power on her, so I can drop 3 heavy attacks in a row. Then usually I would like to bait another one, but if she doesn't like to throw it, then I'll just carry on playing aggressively. Throw my special 2, dex her special 2, go back in, punish, and repeat the cycle. So this is what I meant when I was saying the fight sort of got easier, or I sort of played better as the fight progressed. You know, just by utilizing the dash in and out technique on the special 1, and utilizing the heavy to punish. But yeah, I managed to stay near her throughout the fight, played fairly aggressively, didn't lose too much health. I mean, we lost a fair bit of health just due to close encounters and, you know, all the parry damage and all that, because there's also crumbling armor, Colossus advantage, but we still managed to take her down without losing too much health. Okay, and now we're gonna move up to the Hydra Adaptoid, the second last boss in Act 6 Chapter 4. And the first thing I want to say for this fight is that Warlock is not a good counter for it. He can work, he can solo it, but it does take quite a bit of time. You do need some serious patience to get it down with him. So I do not recommend him for this fight. You know, I just did it again for demonstration purposes, but there are so many better counters for this fight. Or rather, there are a decent amount of counters that are so much better than Warlock for this fight. So going over the notes, there are a number of them that make this fight a bit more annoying with Warlock. First one being he's armor break immune, so just generally less damage since you can't armor break with a special 2. He also has Limber, which means eventually you won't be able to reliably drop a combo after you parry stun, which wouldn't be much of an issue if he didn't also go unstoppable whenever he throws a special attack. And you can't always wait it out because he can trigger those power gain buffs, So by the time Unstoppable expires, he'll gain another bar of power, throw a special attack, and then it's back. So there's a bunch of stuff working against Warlock in this fight. Maybe he would be able to bypass some of these annoyances if it weren't for Force of Will, so there is no ability accuracy reduction happening in this fight. However, despite all of that, he can still solo this fight just due to his infections being able to shut down the regen. It's just a bit of a long fight and not a very fun one. And the fight kind of gradually becomes a bit more difficult as it progresses just due to Limber. Because at first you can parry, stun and punish quite reliably, but then eventually you won't be able to do that. Then at that stage you are going to need to be a little bit more creative in how you find your openings, maybe hold block to prevent that special attack from being thrown and utilize spacing here and there. So initially my strategy was just to avoid parrying as much as I can if I don't need to, so I can preserve those Limber stuns. Then eventually what I started doing was a similar technique I use against Darkhawk, where basically I bait his combo. So I would hold block and wait for him to dash at me, then when he does I would dash back and then parry, followed by a quick light attack which I can usually land before he gets out of the stun, then just combo him and repeat. So the nice thing about this is that you can prevent him from throwing any special attacks as long as he cooperates. Sometimes he will still throw it while you're blocking, and it is unblockable, so it can definitely knock you out because he's got some pretty stacked attack, but usually he will just play into your block, so it is quite effective overall. So I've been speaking about this fight for a few minutes now and we are still far from done. In fact, this fight took me a little bit over 300 hits to get down and roughly 10 minutes. So yeah, not a very quick fight to say the least, and perhaps a bit boring, so I will totally forgive you if you want to just skip the fight and move on to the Grandmaster, because to be honest, I actually don't even want to do commentary on the entire fight myself. So yeah, I'm just gonna move on and you can join me in the next fight now if you wanna. The last thing I'll say about this fight is if you want a practical solution, then don't use Warlock, use slow champs such as Stealthy, She-Hulk, Spider-Gwen, those who can refresh slow without using a special attack ideally, or use Cap Infinity War, Doom, Corvus, Clairvoyant, they all work much better. So yeah, that's all I have to say for this Adaptoid. Alright, so last but not least we have the Grandmaster. So the path that I took for this fight was the one with Masochism. It's not the easiest path, but it's also not the most difficult. The main annoying fight is the Warlock mini-boss, which I just used Doom for. But I took it because it enables the inflation rule set, which is arguably the easiest, or at least one of the easiest ones. Because what it does is it gives you an extra 50% attack for each token that you have. The only downside is the Grandmaster will also have an additional 30% attack, but it's not really a big issue as long as you don't get hit much. So yeah, for me the extra attack from the tokens is definitely worth it. Alright, so we go in with Warlock, first phase, opening bout, just want to do the intercept thing, trying to backdraft quite a lot in this phase. And this phase for me is, I don't know, it's a bit funny because sometimes it's kind of hit or miss in the sense that either I get it done perfectly well, or I actually end up getting hit quite a bit in this phase and take a bit of damage. But otherwise it's not too bad, although it's not my favorite phase just because of how I feel like his AI is a bit inconsistent sometimes when it comes to the intercepts timing. Like over there I got hit, took a full combo and I'm down to 60% health. So yeah, that's just the one thing I find annoying about this fight, just his AI with intercepting sometimes. But usually I can get the light intercepts down pretty consistently. It's just that I got my lights banned pretty early, so I'm not using them anymore. But now I do have enough tokens to progress, so just need to get parry and Dex banned. Then bait that special one. Then he becomes wounded. Can drop some 220k medium crits. And then I finish him off, or I finish off this phase with a heavy, which does 483,000 damage, which really isn't bad. Goes back to what I was saying about Warlock's heavy doing the most damage for a single hit. So now we are in phase 2, and when he is infuriated I like to do those quick light backdrafts just to keep him in the corner, and it's just fun because he is pretty aggressive, so it's very safe as well. So first challenge I get is land a crit, pretty easy one, just need a champ with decent crit RNG I guess. Now I get inflicted damage effect, so I want to actually drop my heavy attack, but I need to bait a special one first, so I'm hoping he throws it very quickly. And he did take a bit of time to throw it, so I wanted to actually bait the heavy attack and then drop my own to punish, but yeah, he just wouldn't let me do it in time. Next challenge, gain a buff, so I just need to lose the precision buff from dexterity. Pretty straightforward, and then we get perform and intercept. Now fortunately Warlock is a champ who is generally very good at intercepting just due to his animations, so that one is also relatively easy. Then the fifth and final one is with an attack, but I wanted to bait a special attack first, but he just wouldn't throw it, you know. So eventually I realized that, okay, he's probably not gonna throw it before I do, so let me just whiff an attack and then get him wounded. And then we can just sort of go ham, get him into the corner. Unfortunately, we were a bit far from his corner, almost in my own corner, so I couldn't really get many of those heavy attacks in. So the damage in that wounded phase was not the greatest. Okay, so now I can finally bait that special one, go back in, and now we get whiff an attack first this time. So again I try to bait a special one, and this time he does throw it before I can whiff the attack, which is good. Because the more special attacks he throws, the more tokens you get, and the tokens just increase your damage when he is wounded. And in this phase he goes wounded after those 5 challenges that he gives you. So ideally you want to bait as many special ones as you can without failing the challenges, just so you can get more tokens, do more damage when he's wounded, and basically finish the phase faster. Okay, so the last challenge is going to be inflicted damage effect, so I just hold block, bait his heavy attack, and then punish with my own heavy attack, and then he goes wounded. We have him in the corner so I can spam those heavy attacks. Would have been nice to get a few more crits, but that was still pretty decent. Now he's down to 43%, just gotta do this one more time. Then I should be able to take him down to the next phase. So first up we get perform and intercept, so we get that one done pretty quickly. He has 1 bar of power, so bait special 1. And now I don't really need to bait that many special 1s because he's almost at 30%, which is where the next phase begins. So I can just focus more on completing the tasks. So now I get to whiff an attack. Another special 1. Dex, get hit. Okay, now we get inflicted damage effect. Dex get hit block. Once again, hold block, wait for him to throw his heavy attack, and now he's cooperating quite nicely, you know, just doing everything I want him to. Okay, now we get land a crit, but I want to bait the special 1 first, because the last thing I want to do is push him to 2 bars of power, because that special 2 is... I'm pretty sure it's impossible to fully dex, and you can't just ignore the block damage. It is pretty significant. But it's one hell of a special attack, just visually speaking. I think it looks pretty damn epic. So it's kind of funny because I hate it when he throws it, but at the same time, when he does throw it, I'm just in awe of the magnificence of the attack. I'm not even that mad if I get hit by it. It's not a bad way to go. Okay, so now we're in the second last phase where he starts to gain power passively instead of with combat power rate. And I can gain as much power as I want now, no longer restricted to 1 bar. And now the challenges start to get a little bit more spicy. First one we get is strike my block, pretty straightforward, just wait for him to hold his block and then go in. Can I get backdash? Do that 4 times. Then I bait a special 1. Get hit, block, evade. Go back in, and I am backdrafting quite a lot now since he has that passive power gain, which means he gains power a lot slower than he usually would if you were to hit him. Again, backdash, okay. Would like a bit more variety, but it's easy enough, so I'm not too worried. And another one, backdash again. And that was twice in a row. Okay, now we get knock me down, and because I have a special 3 ready, I'm just gonna throw that. Usually I would like to save the special 3 for when he's wounded, because it can do a decent amount of damage. Even though the special 3 has a damage cap of I think 5%, it can still be quite handy because you can squeeze it in at the end of the wounded phase to do an extra 5% damage basically. And here I made a big mistake by trying to get in 1 more heavy attack while he was wounded, but unfortunately he does throw the special 1. And of course I'm gonna take all the hits and get 3 blunders, even though the last one literally says get hit, so yeah, that's a bit annoying. But anyway, we're still in this fight fortunately. Next up we get the parry mission. And we get it twice in a row, so just gotta reparry a few times to get it done quickly. Then I had a moment where I thought I was punishing the last hit of his combo, but instead he follows up with a heavy attack, which knocks me down and removes all my tokens. Which is pretty sad, because now I'm going to do a lot less damage when he is wounded, and I'm also in a corner now, and he has thrown a special 1, so this is a bit sketchy now, because I already have 3 blunders, so I can't blunder more than once, otherwise it's game over. So now I have to be very careful, because I also have 5% health left. You get in 2 more reparries just before the timer expires. I get it. Now we get the stand still mission. Complete that. Get another special 1. Block. Dex. Get hit. Go back in and not drop full combos, just intercept. Get 1 more mission, which is knock me down. I try to get it with a heavy attack, it doesn't quite work out, so now I'm at 2% health, so I decided to throw the special 3 to be safe because yeah, I don't want to blunder anymore and I want to get this thing done. So yeah, 2% versus 16%. Special 3 puts me at 8%, and now he is wounded. So I go in and drop some heavy attacks. First one crits, second one doesn't, third one crits, and the final one actually does crit with barely any time left before he ends the wounded phase and takes him down to the last phase. So now I just gotta land a couple of intercepts while he's infuriated. Get the first one, which is usually the hardest. And now I can have a good time just intercepting him very consistently. Just need to make sure you don't get carried away, so stick to 3 hits before you intercept once again, because he will be unstoppable if you drop that 4th hit. Okay, and finally, he is wounded once again. Drop that special 3, and that's it, he goes down. So yeah, that's my Grand Warlock showcase. So if you guys enjoyed the video, please feel free to leave a like, I'd really appreciate that since I spent quite a bit of time working on this one. And just a reminder, you can always check the description if you want to check my mastery setup, there's a link there. Also, I always mention all the music I use in my videos in the description, yet I still get people asking sometimes, what's this song? So yeah, just check the description, and that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.